12 months ago, Google I/O attendees rolled their eyes and accepted the onslaught of artificial intelligence announcements from the keynote event. Earlier this week, that same audience seemed intrigued, engaged, and genuinely wowed with Google's avalanche of AI news. So what exactly flipped the script? Because it sure wasn't just a pair of XR glasses. I'm going to reveal the features that transformed those nods into genuine wows and what it actually means for Google. I'm Jason Howell, Android fan since the beginning. This was either my 9th or 10th Google I/O, somewhere around there, I lost count. And I have a lot of thoughts about what was shown off at Shoreline this week, so let's dive in. We should start with what I perceived while I was there to be the star of the show, and that would be Android XR. The keynote presentation had Shahram Azadi and Nista both wearing the glasses and kind of doing a live translation with each other. And the demo demons were there because some of the connectivity was a little broken. I think that's connectivity and not necessarily the product not working. These are really challenging environments for that after all. Nonetheless, you got to see kind of what this means in action, where two different people are wearing the glasses and each of them speaking different language. That's a pretty magical example of what these glasses are capable of. Not to mention wandering around the room and having it remember the different things that you happen to look at in passing and recall that later and identify who it is that painted that picture. Like all of the real kind of standard examples of this. They had a room there that you could go, and after a long line, you could go in and you could try the glasses. I wish I had gotten video. I didn't realize that I was able to. I just snapped a couple of pictures. I look like a dork. Let's just be honest. These frames are not the right frames for my face. But it shows you how miniaturized these things are getting. And the fact that Google was willing to kind of open it up a little bit and say, all right, we're willing to let people, do what they want and check these things out. If you went into the room, you could play around with a few things. I was not able to do any sort of language interaction while I was in the room. I'm not sure if they were doing that. I was able to do that 5 months ago when I went out to the Google campus and tried on these glasses. Also messaging, of course, when you're walking around and a message comes through, it's all kind of seamless between the touchpad on the side and voice interaction and stuff, having that all kind of appear right in front of your face as you're wandering the world. And then, you've got navigation, location, all that kind of stuff, being able to identify essentially where you want to go, what place has the food that I'm looking for, and then take me there. And, of course, when you look down, you end up seeing a little bit of the map, which is what the video shows right here. And it works really well. Again, this is a feature that I got to check out 5 months ago. Not this time. This time it was very limited to take a look at the picture and ask some questions. And here's a book. Ask it to summarize. Notably, it did not summarize the page that I opened up to in the book. It was unable to do it. And I don't know if it was connectivity or what. The first-person glasses perspective really reminds me of my early experience with Google Glass. When I got Google Glass way back when, I had one day where my daughter was homesick and I had to stay with her and not go into work. And I just had this feeling she was like flirting with walking and everything. And she hadn't taken her first steps yet. And I just had this feeling that she was going to. She could stand up, but she couldn't walk. And so I put on Google Glass and I enticed her with her bunny, with her bee, and was able to kind of get her to take her first steps while I'm wearing Google Glass. And that just shows the power. Like when I see this video, I remember the memory of her looking in my eyes when she's going after the bunny. She grabs the bunny and she's so proud of herself and she looks in my eyes. And it gives me goosebumps just watching it. And then she decides to take even more steps. Meanwhile, I'm not holding a phone in front of myself, right? It's all coming through this thing that I'm wearing on my head. And now we're kind of at the point with this hardware where it's not going to look funky anymore. It's not going to be this alien type of hardware that's on your face. It's just going to be, glasses, partnership with Warby Parker and Gentle Monster if you're willing to pay, I'm sure, a little bit more. I've been saying ever since I tried the Android XR glasses 5 months ago or whatever it was, that this is going to be a really big deal. And I think that general reaction to what journalists, at least, and attendees have seen at Google I/O kind of confirms this, I tried Google's XR glasses and they already beat my Ray-Ban 3s in 3 ways. I hated smart glasses until I tried Google's XR, Android XR. Now I see the potential. Google's Android XR glasses look like its most exciting gadget in years. And Google's new XR glasses are the most exciting tech I've seen in a decade. Wow. I mean, that's not just a little bit of praise. That's like reacting with incredibly positive accolades for this device. Is it going to deliver when it's finally released? We still don't know when it's going to release. I think Google's in a really, really good position with this hardware. And I know I was impressed, and it's good to kind of see other people impressed as well. We had the Moohan, which is the Samsung VR headset, and that was shown off there as well. I didn't get any time with this. I ran out of time basically, and I wasn't able to hop back into this. But again, I was 5 months ago able to spend a bunch of time inside of Moohan. And yeah, it's a pretty great experience, if what you're looking for is that fully immersive VR experience. I think some of the reaction that I've seen is that it's not quite Apple Vision Pro good, but I don't think it's going to be priced the same. It's a lesser cost device. I'd be really surprised if it's priced the same. I'm guessing more in the 1,500, maybe $2,000 range. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be a really impressive device. And it's launching this year. They didn't have an exact date, but they did say that it's launching this year. So I'm looking forward to that. Next up, it's the power of Gemini on all things. Because this really was Google's "We have AI everywhere" conference. That's what it was all about. That's why they moved the Android announcements to a week prior, because they didn't want that to be the story. The story is that Google has its Gemini AI in everything. And Google's building, I think, something pretty incredible here. And it's something that others, kind of like what I was just talking about, Apple, will have a hard time competing with. Apple's kind of having a moment right now in the response to the Siri and AI kind of reaction of not being able to deliver on features. They're not developing those AI models. And this is what I mean. Gemini 2.5 model is seeing some big upgrades, right? The Pro is leading benchmarks, as you're seeing here. You've got Gemini 2.5 Flash becoming more efficient. It's also, doing amazingly well on the leaderboards, if that's something you care about. Obviously, kind of touching on Android, which was news from a week ago, Gemini coming to all devices and this, and all platforms. So basically, Assistant going away. We've got the, coming to the car. We've got it coming to the watches, the Wear OS, to TV. Essentially, Assistant on the way out, even more than it already was, and Gemini really solidifying its place, its new home. And hopefully, through all of those different surfaces and contexts and everything, becoming even more powerful with that access, tied to your identity, tied to your account, but everywhere. It's pretty remarkable, the access that Google has as a result of this. Multimodality across platforms as well. That was the news last week, that Gemini Live coming to Auto as one example, and I can't help but think like, okay, true multimodality in the car, and you've got cameras looking out. Like, they didn't announce that kind of interoperability quite yet, but a lot of cars have cameras on the outside and looking in, and all of these controls and data streaming from the car itself. So once all of that kind of makes its way into the experience, just imagine what you can do with all of that. Pretty awesome stuff. Continues to be one of my favorite new AI features on the device when I remember to use it. It's pretty powerful. We've got Project Mariner, which is the agentic aspects, and this is agent mode is coming soon to desktop as part of the Ultra plan, but essentially using your Gemini to carry out actions maybe across the web or other places, maybe across your OS potentially eventually. Model context protocol support, so that's integrations with open source tools, often referred to as the USB-C of AI. It's kind of and a lot of different companies are committing to MCP right now. Deep think and reasoning, this coming to Gemini as well. Advanced reasoning, really just kind of showing how it can go deep and kind of partition out your queries into a million different directions and then bring it all together for that broader context. And of course, depending on how deep you want to go, we got to talk about the price, because Google did announce these price changes. Google AI Pro, $19.99 per month. Google AI Ultra, this is the one that got audible gasps in the audience, as I would have expected. $249.99 per month. But, obviously, like, am I going to pay $250 a month for this AI service? Personally, no, I'm not going to. Maybe if I was testing it for a video or something like that, maybe I'll do that at some point. I don't know. But it's not something that I would do as just a regular, everyday person, right? But what you get here, it really does appeal to a certain type of user, who wants to be completely cutting edge, wants absolute access to the top of the line of everything that Google is offering, some of which I haven't even talked about yet. Highest limits, the best models attached to each of their products, interaction between Google's different products, specifically, called out here, like Gmail, Docs, Drive, all that kind of stuff. And a whole lot more, a massive amount of storage too, 30 terabytes. So yes, $249.99 per month for all of that. That's a lot to consider. It's not for me, but I can see that it is for somebody. And maybe it's the type of thing that you drop in when you need it, drop out when you don't. And finally, I want to take just a quick minute to talk about Gemini Diffusion. Now, Demis announced this major DeepMind project, and the concept here is really interesting. Instead of generating text one word at a time the way we're used to with LLMs, this diffuses text in a similar way to image or video or music generation. Essentially, what does that mean? You start with noise and you start kind of whittling down the noise and carving out of it to reveal what lies underneath. And do I understand exactly how that works? No, I do not. I am not an AI scientist, but it refines the noise in multiple passes. And what it comes up with on the other end, according to DeepMind, more consistent logical output. And, this is, like I said, this is how video generation and image generation and music generation all work. Text seems to work up until now in a very linear fashion. This is taking that model that works for those other aspects and applying it to text. And I'm really curious to see what that leads to. This is kind of an example of what that means. And they're going to, they slowed it down so that you'd see it. That all happens in an instant, but it's really generating pieces through to come up with the final picture. And yeah, pretty sweet stuff. So look forward to that, Gemini Diffusion. And real quick, if you're enjoying this walkthrough of Google I/O, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, I'll do more like it. And that's really all there is to it. AI mode and AI search. And I mean, this was, I think, one of the key topics, key curiosities that I had in my time at Google I/O, because we are so used to Google's search product. We know what it is because we've been using it for 20, 25 years, the way it has been. And sure, Google's made changes to it, and it's no longer, it hasn't for a very long time been the 12 blue links or whatever. It hasn't been that simple, but it has been, still, I think Google attaches itself to the idea that its products still need to make sense from a user perspective and not be overwhelmed. They sometimes do that better than others, but I think with search, it's really critical. People need to know that when they go to Google search, they're going to get what they're looking for. And I think there has been a little bit of an impact on trust and faith that people are going to get what they want when they go to Google. There are competitors kind of knocking on the door. Turns out some of those competitors are, powering search with AI, and Google does not want to be left behind. I actually spoke with Nick Fox, who's the lead of search at Google, for my podcast, the AI Inside Podcast. You can find that at AI Inside Show here on YouTube. And we discussed this AI moment. There were a lot of topics that we dove into. And all of Google products essentially being touched by AI and the opportunity that presents, how AI mode is particularly adept at answering the why and how questions, not just the what, but, kind of interconnectivity and, beyond just identifying the thing, contextualizing it in the greater scheme of, where it sits, differentiating AI mode from Gemini, which is, I think, a real challenge that I've had in using AI mode for the past handful of weeks, is like, Why do I turn to AI mode versus turning to Gemini? They both do very similar things. In fact, AI mode is driven by Gemini under the hood. But why would I choose to use one over the other, especially when AI mode can do a lot of what Gemini can do, but it can't do all of what Gemini can do. It can't do. It's not an assistant necessarily. It is a search product, and that is something that Nick Fox really reiterated. That's how you think of it when you go in. Search task, you go with AI mode. Assistant task, you go with Gemini. And while that's easy for me to understand as I speak that out loud, I think for a lot of users, they're still going to be asking themselves that question before they truly understand and know it. And what is the risk attached to that for Google if people suddenly start feeling like search isn't as easy as it used to be? He would argue that if Google's doing their job right, then they are making it easy by integrating these things and giving you more of what you're actually looking for. It might be different, but it's still what you're looking for. We also talked about monetization through AI overviews and AI mode. How does the content in AI mode, for example, get monetized when we're so used to seeing that on Google search? Love it or hate it, you got to run a business, I suppose. And of course, there's been news that advertising is coming into AI mode, as one can expect. But deeper than that, and this is, I think, a real interesting kind of aspect to this, is when we start to see the Project Mariner, those agentic actions taking place inside of AI search. That means that the agent is saying, this is the product you're looking for. Let me buy it over here. And is there a monetary value to that action for Google? Are they making money when they say you need to buy your blow dryer here and not there? So we're going to take you over here and you'll buy your product there, and the agent's going to carry that out to completion or almost completion. Is Google making money off that transaction? Is Google playing preference to the place where they make money off that transaction? These are all things that I think we're going to come up against at some point or another in the coming years as these things start to kind of converge, which I think we're going to see. Personalization integrating into search and across all products with AI mode. How your information is being imported into here from the other products that you use and how that influences the search results that you get. Maybe it knows that you are going to Nashville because you have an email from it about Nashville and your trip that's coming up. And then when you go to use AI mode, it knows when to kind of insert that into the dynamics of your experience. Overall, I think the challenge here is keeping search simple and keeping that a high priority, because we are looking at potentially a suite of features. I called it a suite, by the way, in the interview, and I don't think Nick cared for that very much. He's like, this is not a suite. Like, this is one product with a lot of features. But it kind of feels that way, depending on the lens through which you look at it. We really didn't even discuss shopping in the interview with Nick, but it's pretty cool stuff there. The virtual try-on technology is actually pretty cool. And I feel like this is one of those things it's been a promise for quite a while. I feel like we've been hearing about this capability for years now. And I mean, it seems like we're pretty much there, that these systems are pretty capable of understanding the body type, understanding how a piece of clothing fits that body type, and making it look reasonably representative of what someone could envision receiving when they make that purchase. And all sorts of other things related to shopping. Again, I didn't get into shopping in the interview, but it's here. And I think it makes the online shopping experience a little more dynamic and interesting when you can just ask it anything. And it's like you have a creative advisor that's helping you buy the clothes that are going to look really good on you. So a lot of really cool, interesting stuff happening with AI and search. All right, now we got to talk about the creative tools, because wow, this was a big deal. This was definitely got some oohs and ahs, at least in the audience. I don't know how it came across in the live stream online, but VO 3 was announced. And now what you get with VO 3 is you get, as you can hear, you get audio along with the video generation. This was one of the examples that they showed, actually.
It bounced higher than I can jump.
What manner of magic is that?
all the sound effects, the music, you know, all those different aspects of the sound were generated by it, and you know, all within VO. So you can do the video, but you can also have the cues around what you're hearing. They've made improvements around lip syncing, around real world physics, all these things kind of responding to the advancements that they've made with VO3. And yeah, I mean, these videos are starting to look pretty good. It's not perfect. I saw some of, you know, lots of examples of generative video output made by VO3. One of them on a ginormous big screen in the room where I was waiting for the glasses demo. And, you know, when you put it up on a big screen, you really do notice the kind of, you know, the qualities or the elements that make you go, okay, I can tell that that's AI driven. But again, as we keep saying, go out a few more years and it just continues to get better and better. And we're at an interesting place right now when it comes to generative creative output. And along those lines, Imagen 4, higher resolution imagery now, big improvements on text and typography, which has long been an Achilles heel for these systems. Now Imagen 4 seems to be doing a lot better in that regard. Image quality is spot on, but we're seeing, you know, those improvements in text. That's just a really great thing to see, because now you can start, you know, going a little bit deeper. You can even create a full comic strip. But the creative tool that I'm really interested in, and I probably won't have any access to because it's in that $250 tier in order to get access to it, is Flow, which is essentially a video editor for the AI age. And it's, you know, it gives you full control, essentially. It takes all of those sources that I was just talking about, and it squashes them into a single tool designed for filmmakers. You can go in there and you can really tweak how things, you know, how and when things appear, essentially. You can stretch out a clip. You can split it in half and say, from here, this is what I want that character to do. It can retain the likeness of that character. And it's essentially an edit suite that allows you to stitch all of this stuff together, not having to like export footage and bring it into Adobe Premiere and manicure it. I'm sure there's some manicuring that has to happen with this stuff. It aims to make this whole process a heck of a lot easier, and, you know, all integrated into a single tool. I would love to play around with this. Think a video edit suite with AI as the star, right? Here we're showing jib up, so you can give little camera controls and kind of influence what it does from there. And that's what you see in this shot. It's like, okay. Now, those of you who hate AI video on YouTube, I am so sorry to say that this probably means that there's a whole lot more of it coming. I mean, you know, there's even films in the works right now that are based almost exclusively around generated content from artificial intelligence. It's probably going to influence what you're watching in ways that you don't even know, that I don't even know, right? These are just tools that are going to be integrated. It's just another tool set. And so whether you like it or not, I hate to say it, they're coming, and they're coming quick. So overall, I want to end with a quick vibe check. We had Google I/O filled with artificial intelligence, top to bottom, more than we've probably ever seen, because they removed things like Android to the week before. It was exclusively artificial intelligence. And this year was very different from the previous years that I've gone where AI was, you know, a big star of the show. In the past, the reaction from the attendees who were surrounding me was, oh my God, it's just nothing but AI. This is just too much. I hate it. It's not going anywhere. It was a lot of naysaying and eye rolling and everything. I'm telling you, this year was different. I didn't hear nearly as much of that. What I heard instead were people reacting probably the way Google hopes that people would react, which is, oh wow, now that was actually pretty cool. Did you see that thing? That was awesome. Whoa, I can't believe that they've got that to work and that that's happening now. All those things, much less, much more, whoa. I think that just shows that there's a lot more acceptance, a lot more curiosity about these tools. Maybe it also shows that the tools are getting better, and this was an indication of that. Pretty remarkable. I think that's a pretty big accomplishment for Google to kind of turn people's attention away from the negative and toward the potential and the positive. And I was talking about earlier, you know, the challenge for companies like Apple. Google is in an excellent position right now because all of their products have so many people tied into them on a deep, deep level. And now these tools are starting to get so solid and so good on the interconnected contextuality component, taking all of this information, putting it into the right AI and giving you something useful. This is what Google continues to work towards. And I think we're starting to get there. And that's something that a lot of the other companies in the industry don't have the ability to do. And it has me really excited for what's to come. I'm curious to know what you think. There was so much that I didn't cover here, but this is what stood out for me. If anything stood out for you from I/O, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the presentation and of the news. And are you excited about the direction of AI at Google and beyond? I am grateful to get the chance to go to this show every year, and I'm grateful to share it with you when I do. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.